Good morning, Muskegon. This is I Am Muskegon, and I'm Jim Riley, your host for this community conversation. And I'm here in Muskegon's palatial Clear Channel studios with my friend and engineer, the inimitable, I think I said that last week too, the inimitable, the gentleman who put the O in radio. And, you know, too bad radio doesn't have two O's, but Oscar Osbo. Hey, buddy.
That's right.
Good morning, radio. And with us, jumping right into the promo, the opening here, is the former greatest columnist for the Muskegon Chronicle, the only conservative, true conservative, allowed to walk in and out the doors on a regular basis. Businessman, entrepreneur, all-around great guy, Tracy Lorenz. Hey,
wow, that was quite an intro.
Yes, we need cheering. We need a cheering button too.
Yeah, cheer.
So we're gonna.
He's like put me to work.
We've got that outside crowd like Good Morning America.
That's right.
Today's show, they're right outside the windows.
And we do have windows, folks.
Dressed as seagulls.
That's that's our fan base so far. Hey, but it is another beautiful Sunday morning in West Michigan. Whether it's sunny or not, it doesn't matter. It's always beautiful to live out here. And as I've been mentioning in the past, we are the Newsweek or the Time Magazine of Muskegon County. You don't need to surf nonstop on MLive and try to keep up on all the information. If you just listen to I Am Muskegon on Sunday mornings, we will we surf the web so that you can have a life.
We condense it.
And we condense it. We do the research.
Reader's Digest of radio.
But there we go. And we do it for free. We don't even charge the little pittance that Reader's Digest used to charge, which was, I think, what, $9.95 for 17 years.
I just would stole it from the dentist office.
Like that.
Or you could steal it from your dentist office.
He were in uniform. I had them. I couldn't wait.
Wait till
That's why he's a great businessman, because he steals from the dentist office. Yeah.
Well, wait till the open sockets start taunting you, and your dentist remembers.
Aren't they appearing at Coast West Music Fest? The open sockets.
Hey, I don't know if you happened to listen
along with the Blue Men
during the last week, but the Talking Muskegon show has been really promoting, I think, very well the big Purchase Fest, I guess you'd call it, for the Coast West Festival. They're back, tremendous lineup.
The ticket sales?
Yeah, well, not just that. It's $109 for the all 6 concerts, and that's just the 6 main concerts. All the others is part of it. So I'm not going to belabor that point, but I just think it's wonderful that series is back. It seems to me they've got the right blend. And
Jim Riley Live.
Yep. For $130, you can sing backup for Leanne Riley.
Well, somebody bring Leanne a cheeseburger, please, because she does appear to need it. But hey,
they can put a picture on the side of the CDs.
Well, that's it. Then you wouldn't see her. Yeah, there we go. She would fit. Well, maybe she's got some issues that one visit to Muskegon County and an elephant ear can take care of in one gigantic gulp.
They might eat her.
Well, I'm not sure the elephant ears are that hungry. Hey, just this past week, to me, one of the great women of all time, Margaret Thatcher, the Iron Lady, passed away. And I'd like to read a quote by one of the all-time great historians of our day, Paul Johnson. Margaret Thatcher had more impact on the world than any woman ruler since Catherine the Great of Russia. Not only did she turn around decisively the British economy in the 1980s, she also saw her methods copied in more than 50 countries. Thatcherism was the most popular and successful way of running a country in the last quarter of the 20th century and into the 21st. Now, I agree with Paul Johnson's comments 100%. What people forget is that when Margaret Thatcher took over back into the 80s, Britain was collapsing. The unions controlled literally all of the major industry, the coal mines, the trains, the airlines, you name it. And they were driving England just into the ground. And the answer from those who opposed her was to increase taxes. Of course, this is one of the reasons that she was elected. The answer to their ills was to increase taxes on the rich. And back then, the Beatles, some of the most wealthy 4 gentlemen in the country, moved from England to the United States because of the onerous taxes. So the Iron Lady was a tremendous woman, and her, again, Thatcherism didn't just stay with England. It went on to great success in other countries at a time. Remember when the Cold War was in full blown war footing. We had Soviet submarines off both coasts loaded with missiles. We were worried about this crackpot up in North Korea, which is very legitimate worry.
I think they should let them shoot the missile off because the address is going to go up about 10 feet and come right back down and blow up North Korea.
Well, I wouldn't want to be on the team that's trying to put that together, but compared to what we face today, we had very serious problems, and
I liked you.
And she, along with Ronald Reagan and those who supported them, allowed us to be where we are today. But the reason I bring this up is just this past week, there was a resolution which was passed by, I believe, the Senate or the House, one of the bodies in our federal government, just in honor of Margaret Thatcher's passing. It was stopped by the Democrats. It would have been in the Senate. The Democrats in the Senate said, no, we're not going to allow this resolution. So therein lies the differences and the choices that we have available to us between, not that I'm terribly fond of the Republican Party, but I do have contempt. Yes, it's contempt for those leaders in the Democrat Party that would be so petty as to hold up this resolution to one of the great.
If Margaret had better arms like Michelle, they'd probably be all over it.
Yeah, that's true. She and she didn't have a broccoli garden.
The big arms.
There we go. Well, that's life. And just remember that there are people out there who wake up every morning and they are just petty and they are just filled with anger and you have to be hateful, really, if you're going to go out of your way to publicly hold this up. So some of those folks did it. Good for them. They win, by the way. Hey, on this day, though, April 14th, which is, of course, a celebrated day because the next day is the 15th, and this is the day that nobody's going to have any fun, or at least 50% of the American population will have no fun because they have to do their taxes. Oh, yeah. But did you know this is a very big day? Of course, one of the big movies of this past year was the Lincoln movie. On this day in 1865, President Abraham Lincoln was shot and killed.
Really?
Yes, and in a.
I don't have to watch the movie. You ruined it.
I know.
Yeah.
Other than that,
the Poseidon Adventure.
Well, other than that, how was the movie, Mrs. Lincoln? Well, and you mentioned the Poseidon Adventure, and on this same day.
Can I do my Abraham Lincoln impression?
Please, before we get into the further, you bet.
Ow! Someone just shot me in the head.
Wow. Okay, you should have continued with what you were doing.
Other than the play, how was other than that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln? Hey, the same day, the luxury liner, and it was not, interestingly, it was not a Carnival cruise liner. This was the Titanic, struck an iceberg. And
not the exact same day, just the same date.
No, it was not on the exact same day. This day in history. Thank you for that clarification.
Because it could have been a ricochet that.
It could have taken it out. Well, and again, I believe this is you're a smart guy, Tracy. What is the term? It's not an analogy, but it's something that would a stand-in for our economy today. They were all assured that the Titanic was unsinkable. That in fact no matter how quickly we went through the icebergs, they would not be affected in any way, but unfortunately a fair number, about 1,500 people were affected on this day in history.
Except the unsinkable Molly Brown, but anyway.
And yeah, and
she twice.
And she did quite well.
Is Molly Brown on the ship? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Not going to be
on the next one. He's over 2.
Hey, also on this day in history, and I find this kind of interesting because this is a celebrated date, at least it's brought up in derision by the left. But the Texas Board of Education, in 1984, began requiring that the state's public school textbooks, I mean, how awful is this, describe the evolution of human beings as a theory rather than a fact. And of course, the left likes to tell us that there is no God and that the religious view of creation is totally untrue. But in fact, that man evolved from who knows what. But as Charles Darwin did title his book and did title us, it was his theory of evolution. Yes. It remains to this day a theory. It might very well be an accurate theory, but it is a theory. And the fact that you had to have government get involved and say, no, you can't teach this as proven fact, unlike Al Gore. You know, it's a settled science that tell you. I think we're experiencing that global warming as one would imagine. But you know, it's anyway. On this day in 1984, the Texas Board of Education said, "No, you got to teach it as what it was called, a theory. It still is a theory." And one would hope the science would continue unabated.
Did the Beagle ever sing?
The Beagle, you know, that would be, I would imagine, if they had a sequester at the time, they probably would have let it sink because there wouldn't be enough money to fix the little, the seams in the wood.
Yeah.
I don't know if they had sequesters back in those days.
Just stuff a turtle in it.
Well, and there was the first really submersible sort of submarine was called the Turtle. And it sank with
What do you
all
think?
hands.
What do you two think of the Badger? I'm just kind of curious. What do you think they should continue to go with the coal, or do you think
I
it
picked
should?
them in the first round to win. They lost to Harvard or somebody.
Badgers? We don't need no stinking badgers.
Badgers,
Yeah.
Okay, what were they doing with the Badger? They said it was too polluting.
Yeah.
Well, they were dropping the burned up coal residue into the lake.
No.
And they could switch to a diesel, but they don't think they'd be able to
I wonder why
afford
the
to do
water
so.
was cleaner. The charcoal has made it as a filter.
Yeah.
It's actually helping the lake.
No, but I think
flavor of it.
I am
Water's
100%
spotless.
behind the Badger. The concept that dropping the coal residue, which by the way, coal comes from the ground, folks. It's not like, you know, from an asteroid belt or something. Dropping that tiny little amount in on an historic ship like the Badger, I think is perfectly fine. There is, again, there are people, in this case it's Senator Durbin from Illinois, I believe, if not the senior senator, but one of the most senior Democrat senators in the country, and their jihad against this historic tradition is sickening.
The Badger.
Well, yeah.
Why don't they get like some work release guys to row it? We could get some jobs.
Get them on the bottom deck.
It
Yeah.
would be everybody would be happy.
That's right.
Have 'em roll it. I'm a solutions guy.
Those of us who are
It's
interested in
as green
ultimately
as you could get.
getting to Wisconsin,
And
would
give them
probably choose-
all a Stolden Reader's Digest, and you're all
There we
set to
go.
go.
Tell them there's a $2,000 gift card waiting over in Wisconsin. You can water ski behind it.
Well, you know, this could all be fixed just by a simple grant, and we know grants are everywhere, and they just give them a grant and an exclusion, and everything is fine. But we're not getting a grant. We have to go pay the piper. We will be back right after this break. And we are back at Eye on Muskegon. Your audio and, of course, video when Oscar puts it online, and we link to it at eyeonmuskegon.com, but your compendium of the events that have happened in our town over the last week. And a couple things that happened here in Muskegon, and I found this interesting. Earlier in the week, there was a presentation by a gentleman who was on behalf of Muskegon Community College's attempts to raise money for more spending, to at least in their view, to improve the services that MCC is able to provide. And ultimately, their goal is to have a millage passed so that those taxpayers here in Muskegon County will pay more, and of course the Muskegon Community College folks will get the money and do with it. And we'll talk about what they're going to do about it in a second. But the interesting thing that I found in this video of this, he presented this in front of Muskegon County Republicans earlier in the week. One of the people there said, look, you keep talking about how little this is going to cost. It's something like $1 a day or something like that to the person who owns an average hovel in Muskegon County.
I could feed a child for that.
Yeah, and you could feed a child down in Rwanda, probably a, well, you couldn't
I
feed
think
Sally
Couldn't
Struthers.
feed Sally.
She's siphoning some of that money off.
Yeah, she's doing the Hershey bars. But the interesting point is, always on the left, when they're talking about taking money forcefully, by the way, out of your pockets and putting it into their pockets, and it's not just the left, it's government in general, they talk about how much it would cost you per day. But when they talk about, we're going to invest your money and ultimately it's going to save, or these tax increases will save you, or what have you, they say this is going to save $72 billion over the next 10 years. Or now they've I don't know if you've noticed, but they're now coming up with the numbers. Our efforts will save, or our budget will save X amount of dollars, not over 10 years, now 20 or even 40 years, which of course is absurd. Why not 4,000 years and say quadrillions? Anyway, that's the argument that's being given. Well, one of the people at this presentation had the audacity to suggest, why do you keep telling folks at presentations how little it's going to cost them? Why don't you be talking about how much good will ultimately result in this investment? And the person who was making the presentation said, oh wow, really, never really thought about that.
Tell them what, maybe get them pumped up for the $1 a day.
Well,
let them know what you're going to do.
Well, here's and perhaps this is why he wasn't prepared to answer that question, because the renovation and this money is going to be used for a variety of things. They've got a big list, but here are some of the ones that were on M Live. The renovation of creative and performing arts facilities, which includes moving the creative art department out of the existing building to a new space. I mean, who couldn't applaud that? And that's something critically important today.
Might donate a little extra.
But then there would be 5 new art studios, 3 classrooms, an exhibition gallery, critical at a time when we're broke. Got to have an exhibition gallery, a kiln room.
Isn't Oscar an exhibitionist?
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Well, and Oscar,
When I
you
get
probably
to
have your own
it's-
kiln room at home, and improvements
cookies
to
get cold.
the Overbrook Theater, and then some other things. But
Here's what I suggest. Why don't they take the money and number the floors in the proper order?
yes.
So that 3 isn't on the bottom and 1 isn't on the top.
Anyone who's ever tried to go to a meeting in that back building in particular,
Yes.
the room numbering is
It's
stunning.
upside down. The first floor's on the top and the 3rd floor's on the bottom.
Well, you're not going to get renumbering from this millage. But there's another side to this, and you are a business owner. But if you own a hovel in Muskegon County, this may only cost you $1.50 a day or what have you in perpetuity.
And I can fix that hovel for you.
Well, and you are a fixer of hovels. That's true. You have a business that does that. Matter of fact, we'll give you a pitch. What's the name of it?
Carbon Footprint Home Improvement.
And I assume if you Google that, you'd find it.
CO2.
Can you install my kiln?
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah, okay.
CO2footprint.us.
The CO2 footprint.
We just did a house in downtown Muskegon where we were hired to, it was a Section 8 house where the owners just left. And my final crew removed 3.5 tons of material, and there was no furniture. It was all clothes and jewelry that still had price tags on it.
And then you put this in landfills. Now our landfills are all filled up.
And
Where will the children toss their trash?
Yeah, really. Well,
That's the nature
Kind
of the hovel.
shack.
Well, I doubt that hovel was paying the $1.50.
No,
But think about this. And to me, this is an idea that came from the former county commissioner Alan Jagger. He said, it may be that it's $1.50 a year or a day or what have you, but that's not the important thing that's going to be effective to Muskegon County. It's how much is it going to cost our big employers? How much is it going to cost employers who are considering expanding, or employers who are considering possibly moving in to Muskegon County? And I don't know, because I wasn't at this meeting, if in fact that question was asked, but it most certainly was not addressed. And one of the problems that we continue to face here in Muskegon County is that we keep adding that, it's only $1.50 a day or what have you, not just to the citizens here who live here, but to the businesses. And those businesses respond, unless you're like Mr. Rooks in downtown Muskegon, who's going to get a $2 million the gift, I guess, from who knows where the money's going to come from. But our businesses have generally responded by a Japanese term, sayonara, which is not uncooked fish. It's goodbye. And it keeps on and on and on.
Well, what's in it for us?
Well,
a couple new studios at community college.
Again, if you think the kiln, the exhibition gallery, the 3 classrooms, 5 new art studies, I would imagine maybe studios is maybe some spelling, some spell check for those over at M Live. But hey, you I think had some connection to this, but this happened a couple weeks ago. But what I found interesting is Muskegon's Michigan Steel closed, laid off all its workers. Now, did you have some insight into this?
No.
Oh, well, there we go. And what a sad thing for them.
If I did, they'd still be open.
There we go. Well, the reason
I did have some connections in the steel business, but they're different. with structural steel.
Well,
That's the family. This is not.
This is another one which you may recall. It was involved with Rothbury Steel and a few other locations. But this was another one that was highly front-paged all over about how wonderful the private-public partnership and all. This whole thing happened because of government money. State assistance is the kind of a nice PC term that the MLI folks use. Here's the situation that we face day in and day out. Our betters, the elected betters, who promise us that they're being wise and judicious in their decisions of what they tell us is scarce funds, scarce resources, have no plan, no policy whatsoever to review the spending that has been done. It's simply it's popped up in an article in MLive and then it's gone.
Yep, never think of it again.
If they bozo up, which they seem to be doing time and time again, no big deal. Who made that decision? Where was that particular decision addressed? And it reminds me of something that happened, I think 2 years ago, might have been 3 years ago, but it was at the Muskegon County Board of Commissioners, and they passed the spending bill. There wasn't much spending involved. I think it was maybe $10,000, maybe even less than that. But it came via a grant of well over $100,000. And the $100,000 was part of a national program for, quote, cities of promise, which one of the county commissioners at the time told me, well, cities of promise is a synonym for cities of CRAP, disaster cities.
Promise.
Anyway, so the Cities of Promise grant, which there were many of them out there, but this particular one was to provide over $100,000 to train young residents who resided in these cities of promise here in Muskegon County for the high-pay jobs in the construction industry. Now, this is 2 years ago too, folks. And nonetheless, the question at the Board of Commissioners when this was brought up was never, what high-paid jobs, whatever. Essentially what they were doing is providing some training. The grant essentially went to MCC to hire almost for sure a white instructor to teach minority residents. They got a hard hat, they got a book, they got lunch every day. They met for, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks for the high-paid jobs. Well, I asked my county commissioner, I said, can you tell me whatever happened to this? And he said, well, I don't know. And I said, well, don't you have any procedures or policies whatsoever when you spend, even though it's free money, it's somebody else's money, to find out, did this work?
To justify it, somehow show some results.
I said, no. And I said, well, wouldn't it be a good idea to do it? And he said, well, yeah, it's never happened. They never, and this is just at our local level. You can be sure it's happening all over the country. It's certainly happening in Greece and Crete and other places, or Cyprus. Anyway, we've got to take a break, but to spend the money, and who cares, folks? Isn't that what you do when you spend your own money? I don't think so. Every pocket of my clothes, I know, they are digging deep, those forces of greed, and tomorrow will be the day of doom when we have to either send our money in or be joyful in the misunderstanding that we're getting money from the government. In fact, we're getting money back that they've taken from us.
Interest-free.
Interest-free. But this is, I am Muskegon. We got Oscar Oswald, who's absolutely gleeful. He's got new toys, got new screens looking at him.
Yeah,
He's got these shiny new legs.
I can see him now. I can see.
There's only 2 beige monitors left.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. We are moving ever so slowly into the 90s, which is great. And
that's it, too, into the 90s.
And Tracy Lorenz brought his brain with him. Hey, and experience, because one of the great, and I don't know, I was unable to find the date that you had written this column, but you have your own, actually it's not a website, which I've got to get on you about, but you are writing your article, your columns are in the Examiner, and they're syndicated elsewhere.
Right. Correct. And they're on Facebook.
They're on Facebook, but we need to get you a blog so that people can link to them. And I will talk to you about that later on. But you had sent me, or actually I read this on Facebook, a really funny and great, and I would say quite insightful and educational column about your experiences some years back about trying to move and make the farmers market. So tell us about that a little bit.
Well,
Because by the way, because the Muskegon City geniuses just decided to go ahead with this move from the farmers market in its current place to a beautiful location in what used to be called Hiroshima, Muskegon. Hiroshima / Muskegon is now the downtown of Muskegon.
Yes. Well, it was about 5 years ago, and the plan was to move the current farmers market. The thing about the farmers market is that Muskegon acts like it's the only one, like it's this national treasure. But every city has one. It's not like a big deal. But we were going to move it from its current gorgeous garden site next to Stink Creek and sandbirds out in the parking lot.
Which, by the way, I like that site. I know that you're not, you like to call it Stink Creek, which
That's what it's called. That's the actual name of it.
Oh, I used to call it the beautiful flower-smelling creek. But okay, so you wanted to move it.
And we want to move it to an area between Fricano's and the YMCA. It's
okay.
a big...
Which at the time was literally a dead zone.
It's still pretty dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because it was near the marina there, we could get funds from the state government to fix it up. So we had a private investor who was going to put up half the money, and the state was going to put up the other half of the money.
And the private investor was intending at some point to make a profit out of this?
It was more, he's trying to develop the whole area. It's down in the Watermark block.
Okay.
So he wanted to tie it in with the Watermark.
Okay, bring traffic to that area.
Right.
All right,
Watermark 920.
makes sense.
And it was not just a farmer's market. It also had some small stages for, events at night.
Sure.
To try to make it a more community center. They had refrigeration, some of the units had actual electricity and running water, something that isn't always available at the current site. So anyway, we went through about a year of meetings and research, plans, drawings.
This is a pretty serious group.
Yeah, this was not like, hey, let's do this, like, let's put on a play. No, we spent a lot of money getting to this point. So we had a meeting set up with the Waterways Commission in Lansing with congressman down there, and Sarah Rooks, who was sort of heading the whole deal, and I met down in Lansing. We were supposed to meet with 4 city officials to make our presentation to the state to get the money. It was all set up. Sarah and I drove over there. We walk into the congressional building.
So you drove over to Lansing?
To Lansing,
okay.
Yeah. And this page or somebody comes up and says, "Are you Sarah Rooks?" And she says, "Yes." And he said, "The city of Muskegon called, they're not coming." And that was it.
So the people who you had been dealing with in the city just
Correct.
didn't show up. Now, this had to be, what, in 1972 before brick
Cars.
brick phones and things like that?
That's right. Yeah, they didn't call us, and I'm pretty sure they had the numbers. They just called the...
So they had meetings with you over the span of a year. You had a private investor.
Yes, we had many, many meetings with farmers.
They just didn't bother to show up.
And then they just didn't... and we had talked to them the day before, we had all the plans, what time we're going to be there, where everybody's going to meet, everything, and it was all set, and then they just...
you've got to wonder how often this kind of thing has happened in Muskegon. We do know that, and I checked this out.
This is not going to
This is free, yeah.
This is not going to cost the city.
Of course, they tell us this new one's going to be free also. But I will tell you this, that I checked this out back when we had, I forget who the drain commissioner was, a pretty famous guy, been around a long time, and ultimately was sort of forced out after he had been accused of, quite convincingly from my standpoint, of sexually harassing the ladies in his office, the publicly elected office.
They get some chicks.
Well, we've had some problems.
We've had some part of the job.
Kind of hard to resist those drain commissioners, right?
Well, the drain commissioner chicks too.
Get the chick shrapnel coming on.
Well, nonetheless, this essentially did him in, and but at the time, I did a little survey because not surprisingly, there is a drain commissioners organization, and you can go there online, and you can
There's
see.
A party.
There is a party. Actually, one of my early shows, we did have a drain commissioner on, and it was pretty good.
Yeah.
But my point to this is that every drain commissioner on this website. So in other words, if you're a developer, if you're somebody with lots of money, somebody maybe like Tracy coming in with a group that wants to do things here. One of the things that you will have to do in order to achieve your goal of building or developing or what have you is to get the approval of the drain commissioner. So they are arguably the most, or certainly one of the most important elected officials in an entire county. And every single drain commissioner in every single county, and there are 80 some counties in our state, were listed online, the name, address, phone number, hours, and website, with two exceptions. One, I forget the county, and Muskegon County. Not only that, they didn't have posted hours. They had nothing. And I wonder if that kind of, remember, the rest of the leaders, certainly the Muskegon Chronicle, the editorial board, the tutters who tell us how much they care about the success and the growth of our county, they were all well aware of this. They knew what was going on. And in fact, the only thing that got them off dead center was the fact that some ladies very convincingly said, hey, this guy has really been, he's out of control.
So you're saying our drain commissioner is sort of an underground activity?
Well, I'll tell you this: our new drain commissioner, who I think is a very bright guy, but he is very interested in expanding spending here in our county and expanding power. That's another story. But I just it saddens me when you do see folks who are interested in achieving things. Now, again, I'm not fond and I do not approve of this move of the farmers market to where it's going. Not because I don't like the plan. It's because I do not believe the people. And one of my main reasons for not believing the people who are supportive of this, which includes apparently the gullible folks at MLive, and that is, if you recall, and just Google it, go back early on, they had promised via MLive that the move was going to cost $4 million. I mean, just imagine that. I mean, literally all the development is done. How you could spend $4 million is up to who knows what. But this money had been privately raised. Okay, now private used to mean individuals that were non-government. They never said where the $4 million was going to come from, and they never defined private. But now all of a sudden, it's $3 million is the amount raised, or the amount that they're going to be spending on this. And at the public presentations about this farmers market, they are publicly saying, "Oh, and we need to raise more money. We're going to have contributions, and we're trying to get more grants." So they were saying this one was officially $4 million. So when people start, what would be the term, evading the truth, start changing the lines, the promises of wonderful things to come down the road, one has questions. Given truly that the history of the Einsteins who have driven Muskegon to its current location in terms of employment and its views by other counties and other companies in terms of a place to move to, you got to wonder if is their judgment, is it out of bounds to question their judgment?
Why you would take up that much, seemingly prime real estate, maybe someday be prime real estate, right downtown for something that's only open part of the year?
Part of the year, just a few days a week. And you bring up a good point, because interestingly, they have it's not an arts and fairs or arts and crafts. Maybe it is. It's an arts and crafty thing that they have on Wednesdays there, which apparently
it's the flea market.
The flea market. There we go. It's got a better name. Fleas. We like fleas.
They're artsy fleas. They got little berets.
Well, but you know what? This is
play the bagpipe.
The flea market for many people is like an Amazon.com for those who are not high tech. They can bring their various little wares and sell them.
It's like the bar scene on Star Wars.
Okay.
I've been there twice because I went down there once already.
Walmart's outside.
It is.
Look, it may be have other reasons to attend, but in fact, it's quite popular among those who
one guy
enjoy that particular.
Jump in. He had one thing to sell, and it was the dented cover to a Weber grill. And it was $1. And it was his only item. He was sort of out in the parking lot.
Someone stole my dented grill cover. I'd have paid $1 in a minute to get that.
It was blue, so it was a very limited market. You had to have a blue Weber grill missing the top.
I looked at an amplifier one time that the guy was trying to sell for $5, and I turned it over and had a 50-cent sticker on the bottom. So I'm thinking, okay, he got this a yard sale, 50 cents. He's trying to sell it here for $5.
An amplifier for even $5. Well, okay. The fact is that this is a very popular event, but there has been no discussion. This is still the Einsteins who are behind this, the people who have told us they've really thought this thing out, have not they said, well, we definitely are not going to get rid of the flea market. We just haven't figured out what to do with it. This isn't, I mean, this is not, heart-lung transplant kind of stuff here. This is a little bitty flea market at a place that they're going to put 3 or 4 or apparently more dollars, millions of dollars into this, and they can't figure out a date. I mean, it's going to be empty on Wednesdays.
Yeah. All Wednesday.
I sadly, folks, let me read this. A friend of mine sent me a letter from a friend of theirs who apparently had lived in Muskegon, Michigan. And I'm just going to read part of it. But it says, it's comparing the city of Muskegon, and this is a clearly intelligent guy, with the city of Bay City. I keep comparing it to Muskegon, both cities of which were born on the backs of lumber and suffered through the years following World War II. One big difference is that Muskegon has yet to do much about the decline. They tore down the downtown mall, failed to have a plan to develop it, still has no plans for the future of the Sappy site, has failed to use its great waterway and gateway to Lake Michigan, fails to beautify any part of the city, good Lord, that's the truth, and has no plan for the consolidation of several historic ships and subs into a marine historical museum site. Bay City has used its waterfront to great advantage, building both residential and business concerns, is developing a maritime site on the river, is opening a new uptown River's Edge development, of which will employ more than 500 in the initial steps, anchored by Dow Corning. It's built a new YMCA, reducing the empty inventory by rebuilding, redefining, rethinking, and ways to do things, blah, blah, blah.
We have the cheese lady.
Well, again,
right.
apparently the most revered entrepreneur in Muskegon apparently is the cheese lady.
And she was the one most against moving the farmers market. When we were attempting to move it, she was the one.
And of course, she's on board now. And again, I don't know them, and I don't know what, but I just find it interesting. When we're sitting here in West Michigan, when the reports of the #1 job producing city in the United States of America is in Holland, Michigan, which is, of course, adjacent to us. And we're being told, I'm hearing this now, county commissioners are telling themselves, and they're telling those constituents willing to listen, that Muskegon County cannot be compared to other counties like Kent County or Ottawa County for a variety of reasons, all statistical nonsense. But in fact, we ought to be compared to the great counties of our state of Michigan, Genesee County, where Flint is, and Wayne County. I believe it's the largest county, where country, I guess you'd almost have to call it, Detroit is. So in fact, that appears to be who we will judge ourselves by. I would say we are in good company.
Yeah, the bar's not too high.
No, the bar's not too high. It's pretty sad when folks believe that. And we'll take a break. We'll be right back. Okay, we are back. I'm Muskegon, Tracy Lorenz, Oscar Oswald, and your lovable little fuzzy, cuddly host, Jim Riley. Hey, we're still going to focus a little bit on...
Have you ever called him that? Because I never have. I don't know about you.
That's all he was.
I keep hearing it. I keep hearing it all the time on the radio, so it must be true. Okay. So I do listen to the show after the fact. But we're back on Muskegon, and this is Muskegon County, and this is Muskegon County stuff. But I just found it interesting. A headline that I read just this past week: 8 Fruitport Township teens honored for apprehending alleged fleeing felon, fleeing felon, I guess. I think it's wonderful and good for these kids, but the fact that it is so rare that citizens will get involved in stopping a crime makes this big news here in our community.
I think it's rare that someone at Fruitport actually made a tackle.
Well,
they did take 8 of them.
Well, they have had their days in football, but they did have their day apprehending the fleeing felon. But again, isn't it sad that this type of thing is so rare as to be big news? Here we have a big discussion going on in the black community of Muskegon. The question is, what is the future of the black community in Muskegon and Muskegon Heights? And very little discussion about really the culture, the problem of how many we have crime galore, certainly in the city of Muskegon Heights and certainly in portions of the city of Muskegon, all within the black community, with the victims almost entirely being black, and yet when there is an issue, pardon me,
porn collections being stolen.
Well, you do have the porn collections being stolen and superstars being made as a result, but you do not have that community. Doesn't apparently have a sense of, hey, let's stand together against the bad guys. Matter of fact, we remember it was some years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, where there was a theoretically anyway, the police officer who was black, who was trying to arrest a thug who was black, and the thug got beaten up in the process of the arrest. And the outrage wasn't at the thug; it was out at the police.
Right.
And in fact, any number of hundreds of thousands of dollars were given to the thug, who I believe died somewhat shortly afterwards of some not related ailment. But again, that's
lead poisoning?
That's Muskegon, folks. Hey, I had an event happen to me. Not an event, but a story recounted to me when we were down on vacation this past week in Florida. One of my friends is an attorney, and he was representing a family, husband and wife, who had decided that they were black Americans down in the St. Pete, Florida area. They had a 16th birthday celebration for their son, and they'd rented a hall. And while they didn't expect any trouble, one of their friends was a security guard, and the security guard said, "Hey, look, I've got a wand. I can at least wand people who come into this hall that they'd rented." Well, party's going on. Apparently, a disagreement to happen among some of the folks there. People went outside. Some monster pulled a gun and shot and killed someone, another young man. And the murderer was captured and I believe is now in prison. But the grieving parents of the young man who was killed decided that that they wanted more, and so they sued. Now remember, this is an event that happened outside of the hall. The matter of fact, the person who was the murderer, not that I think would matter, but he wasn't an invited guest. But they sued the parents, and they sued their friend, the security guard.
They sued Juan.
And they sued Juan, and they sued somebody else. They ended up settling the case. The insurance company just settled it. That's why I remember this so vividly here. $100,000 from the parents who rented the hall. $20,000 from the poor moke who just said, "Hey, I'll just wand him because I'm a highly paid security guard." And there is still a significant suit out there against the hall. I'm sure the monstrously wealthy.
The guy who shot him.
Well, the guy who shot him, has no asset, so he wasn't going to be sued.
License plates, free license.
But think what this tells our community. As things have morphed so miserably.
Kangaroo Palace being sued after the stabbing?
Well, think about it. Was there a stabbing at Kangaroo Palace?
Oh, yeah.
No, are you joking or not?
No, I'm 100% serious.
Oh, then one would hope that there'd be a big lawsuit.
There was a birthday party.
Oh, good Lord.
For a 5-year-old, and the 5-year-old stepmother invited the 5-year-old's mother, who had just gotten out of prison. So the mother came in. Again, this is all what I read in the paper, so it must be true.
Clearly.
The prison mother came in and was, I guess, being very profane, so the stepmother said, like, quit swearing or something, so she went and got a shiv.
Well, and again, that's behavior that in some parts of our country is considered to be fine. Well, remember, people don't stab, knives stab. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Anyway,
hey, just speaking of that too, that one killing in the Florida, where he used a utility knife or something.
Oh yeah.
I mean, so are we going to ban all the utility knives now, or?
Well, the media is not going to make a big deal about it. You're right. This is about. It's a goal. Every government, certainly those governments on the left, they want to make sure they do not have an armed populace. You can imagine if the citizens in Cyprus were armed, that maybe the government wouldn't have taken 20% of their savings.
I don't know if you read this. The guy in Home Depot yesterday. I'm not making this up. He went in and took 2 saws and tried to cut his arms off in Home Depot, so he was actually unarmed. But
well, it's hard to cut them both off. I can see perhaps getting one.
He wasn't doing like a power saw. He took a drywall saw.
You had to use your legs.
And
this is a very sad.
They took some twine and duct tape or something in the...
Was it a Home Depot demonstration?
Yeah.
No, you can look it up.
Well, again, this goes to an entirely different issue, which is mental health, and what you've got now are because of these aberrations. I mean, we do have a country of 320 million people. They're going to have odd things happening all the time, but who knows? Maybe we're going to start doing what the left had screamed bloody murder about back in the 70s, and we're going to start warehousing people who are deemed unfit, frightening, or what have you. What do we say? The most recent number I just read, fully 1/5, 1 in 5 males in our American schools are prescribed Ritalin or some similar drug. 1 in 5.
I missed that one. 1 in 5. 20%.
I mean, that's going on there. But I want to get back to this lawsuit because last week, and probably not well covered by the media, was the announcement of another settlement. Remember poor little 6-year-old Trayvon Martin? I guess he was 19, or 18. But anyway, Trayvon Martin, the black fellow who...
a saint.
Well, he was a saint in certainly some areas. But he was... he did, it's on question, he did attack a Hispanic gentleman. And the Hispanic gentleman shot him and killed him. And... Anyway, that has yet to be resolved in any way. They're going to sue him, of course. Trayvon Martin's divorced mom and dad are going to sue Zimmerman, who's theoretically the perp. But they just settled against the Homeowners Association in that homeowners community $1 million. Now think about that. Again, this goes right back to the $100,000 that you got for the family that just decided to have a party. Here's a homeowners association. It's not even clear at this point that the Trayvon Martin is an innocent bystander here, but the insurance companies were so frightened by this change in culture in our country, where there are no individuals who are at fault, but in fact amorphous corporations or whatever. $1 million settlement, and I would imagine that the homeowners association was happy to get off that easily. And they did announce that but the other lawsuits that have yet to be filed will be filed. One against, of course, Zimmerman, and who knows what else. Anyway,
there's so many lawyers around these days for making all that kind of money.
Well, it's not the lawyers per se. The lawyers take advantage of the system, but it's our elected officials who make the laws. And as long as we're going to allow this...
Yeah, but the lawyers find the little ways around some of the laws.
Oh, they do.
Laws too,
no question about it. But again, that could be stopped in a minute.
And the lawyers are the one that call you warm and fuzzy. So
that's true. They do. I am a warm and fuzzy guy. 100%. Hey, how about this? Flint, the city that is emblematic to many of our county commissioners of where we want to be.
They should have an apostrophe.
Well, and this may be the reason. Get this. Despite the fiscal problems that our wonderful neighbors up in Flint have, they are pursuing... This is a bad Saturday Night Live skit. They are trying to buy a hydrogen-powered bus. It's a kind of a... It's hydrogen-powered, anyway. Yeah. 0 emissions, so that who knows, whatever the emissions are supposed to kill will kill. The city's got 18% unemployment. Physical situation so bad it requires an emergency manager. The Flint Mass Transit Authority, which is pronounced get this, the typical bus, which of course nobody pays for buses, so their prices are double what they normally would be, but a typical bus is $327,000. They want to pay $2.4 million for one bus.
For the Hindenburg, basically.
And the money, get this though.
Do they have guns?
The money's going to come from the stimulus, which is almost 4 years old now. They're going to get $2.2 million from the stimulus, and who knows where the rest of the money is going to come from. Now, their first choice, by the way, and again, the geniuses and the Einsteins that are in charge of this decision making, they decided to go with Fisher Coachworks. I don't know anything about Fisher Coachworks, but I will tell you, we're not likely to hear much about them because they went belly up in 2010. Yeah. So this is your this is your government at work, and as a sense of where these.
You know how many bikes you could buy for that much money? You could. I mean, people that ride the bus, they always say it's like 200,000 people. There's actually 10 people who ride it.
It is.
200,000
Yeah.
times.
You know, I did a whole
So
show
why
on
don't you
that.
just- why don't
I
you
drove
just buy
around
each a car.
all week.
Yeah,
in a bus.
I did that account years ago because they used to drive past my office all the time, and there'd be nobody on them. Bus after bus. You might
Yeah.
have two people, one, but mostly they were completely empty. So why don't you just buy those two people a car? You save a fortune. Here,
Or a chauffeur.
for a chauffeur.
Well,
Rickshaw.
I think there was some math. I did this myself, but there was some math that on most of the routes in Muskegon County, there are some going to the college at particular times, but on most of the routes, you could provide a cab ride for a fraction of what we're paying in a bus. But
maybe that's
here's
how they're going to get the poor people to the farmers market, because I know that was a big concern.
well, that's one of the selling points actually. That was, and the interesting thing was that they could get the poor people to the farmers market now. They choose not to do this, but they're saying now that the new system or the new move will allow them to get to the farmers market. But have you heard of the mega bus? Well, there's some company, it's a privately owned company, and they've got a bus that goes apparently from Grand Rapids to Chicago, among others. It's a big bus, and it's like the old Greyhound. All right? Well, apparently that is competing with the tremendously subsidized Amtrak train that goes from Chicago, or from Grand Rapids to Chicago, and occasionally back. One of the problems with that Amtrak run is that it breaks down a lot, and it takes forever to get there. But when so the result of this is at a time with gasoline prices going through the roof, that the ridership was down 11%. Now that's a big decline. Anyway, when asked about it, the Einstein who's in charge of the Amtrak deal says, "Well, we don't think the decline has anything to do with the megabus. We think the decline has to do with the weather." So okay, great. On that happy note. Hey, we'll be right back.
We'll pot up.
Okay, folks, I am Muskegon. We are worried about the hands of the man having their hands in our pockets, but we're not alone in this. And here's some lovely news that's come out just the past week or so. Caribou Coffee, bugging out of Michigan. They're going to be gone. Shutting down 80-some stores, underperforming Midwest and East Coast locations. So they're bugging out. And Frontier Airlines, which is quite annoying to me since I just got a Frontier credit card about a year ago. And they're bugging out of Grand Rapids Airport. We have flown them a few times out of that South Bend Airport, and that's pretty cool. Mason County, the wind farm up there, which if you drive by on a windy day, you'll see probably 60-70% of those big propellers spinning around, providing that clean green energy. I like the term green energy too, because it harkens back to the green dollar bills, and this is the most expensive energy you could find any place in the world. Certainly here in Michigan, we've got a fair amount of it, but not surprisingly, because there has been it's been hidden by the media. Lawsuits are popping up, and I don't know if you've ever been near one of these wind farms. You know, I've driven by them, but I have stopped. They're not just loud; they've got that weird hum that you can feel in your chest, and this is nothing new. This has been out there. People have known that there is noises and things coming from them just by virtue of the type of machinery they are.
Magnetic field.
It could be. It could. You know, who knows? The point is, it doesn't appear to have been well studied. Much like these theoretical smart meters that Consumers Power is.
Kills a lot of wildlife too.
Well,
birds go down.
Well, there was just a golden eagle. We talked about this last week. A golden eagle, and it turns out it's a $200,000 fine if you kill a golden eagle, even by mistake.
But they're so tasty.
But they are good, actually. They taste like chicken, though, which is shocking. Yeah. But anyway, there's a lawsuit that has just been filed in Mason County. And the allegations are noise, vibrations, and flickering lights to other the homeowners that are surrounding it. Sleeplessness, headaches, dizziness, and other physical symptoms, as well as economic loss. I don't. It seems to me this is a lay-down winner. You know, we have, and again, our wonderful media has not really made a big deal about this, But when they cheer the reduction in the unemployment numbers, which of course is just a mathematical number, more people are not employed. In fact, what's happening is that many more thousands, I believe 600,000 people just in the last month, got not just off the unemployment rolls, but they got on the Social Security disability rolls. And it's not too hard to get on that, and it would seem to me that if I lived up there in Mason County and I was interested in just sitting back for the rest of my life, I would run up there and say I've got all these various ailments, because it may very well be the case.
I've been to Mason County. Those people that look all that normal.
No, they don't.
In the first place, yeah, right.
And they're kind of jumpy. Well, this may be the reason.
My mother-in-law lives there, and she anyway. That's
there we
story.
go. Hey, the First Amendment victory. I don't know if, again, the media's not picked up on this, but there's a gentleman who owned a farm by one of the highways, and he had a couple trailer-type trucks, and he had big political signs on them, and they were conservative in politics. They weren't, vile or in any way, but certainly they made liberals unhappy driving by. So the area that he lives in, which I believe was Gaines Township down in Ottawa County, they had a law that said you can't have big political signs. Well, the law in Michigan is pretty clear. You can't regulate political signs in a different manner than you can other signs. And he, with some support from some groups, I think the ACLU also, went to court, and he won. So if you want to have a big political sign, as long as they're not going to restrict other signs, then you're allowed to have it. That's a victory for the little guy. But here's a victory that's not for the little guy. This is another, again in Michigan, there's a big discussion by the geniuses, the folks who we have authorized the power to. Should we change the high school graduation requirements to eliminate Algebra 2 and foreign languages? Now, we just had reported, just this past week, that in Muskegon Heights schools, 9th graders are performing at a 6th grade level, which I doubt that. But how do you define 6th grade? But our schools are doing a miserable job, and the answer from the education establishment seems to be let's try to do less.
Yeah, make it easier.
We know that, think about this. Remember, it wasn't that long ago when people were telling us how we are in this multicultural, multi-language world, that foreign language skills are critical. Think of the job opportunities that you could get. And yet we have all of these multiple language folks, people call them Mexicans, coming into our country. They speak multiple languages. And in fact, interestingly, in many cases, they're getting jobs. And in fact... we have our
construction. They work hard.
Well, they do, but our leaders have decided that we don't want them to be. We don't want to teach these skills to our own children.
I want to speak teaching English. I'd be happy with that.
We talked about this on the Talk in Muskegon show, but many teachers have told me this: the single one thing that could change our entire educational establishment here in Michigan anyway, and it doesn't cost a penny, will not cost one single penny, and that is get rid of social promotion. If you learn arithmetic, I don't know, addition, let's just say, in 2nd grade, and you have not mastered addition, and that happens sometimes. Lots of kids just are a little slower in picking things up. If you are promoted, social promotion, to where they're now teaching division, but you do not know how to do addition or subtraction, you're doomed. You are doomed, and certainly not algebra either. You are doomed for the rest of your life never to learn arithmetic. Same thing with reading. Same thing with writing. Those are the building blocks of any type of education. And you are doomed if, in fact, you are promoted out of the grade where they're teaching it. They're not teaching that any longer in 3rd or 4th grade. And clearly the educational establishment in the state of Michigan is all for social promotion, because they've not stood up and screamed bloody murder. I've had individual teachers tell me this. But the reason I bring this up is I was in Florida on vacation with some friends, and one of the more successful guys there, we were somehow talking about age. Turned out he was the oldest of our group. So how could you be the oldest? We all graduated together. Well, he was held back in 3rd grade. no. His self-esteem just had to have been horrible.
He's got to be a lawyer, right?
No. He was a business owner, a successful husband, successful dad, very successful businessman. Started his own business, but he benefited tremendously, as did society, because he pays lots of taxes and has this great family. But he benefited from the lack of interest in his self-esteem by our betters. And folks, it wouldn't cost a penny.
Does it increase your self-esteem once you finally learn it? Like even if you're a year late?
It increases your self-esteem if you finally learn it. What a concept! Yeah. You know, learning is good. What do they? Isn't that the Faber College from Animal House?
That's right.
Yeah. Anyway, it's well. Here we go. I just found the numbers here. In this last month, I believe it was, another 89,000 Americans were just dropped out of the labor force. Now, they also dropped out of the unemployment rolls, which the media touted as a tremendous gain to Americans. I did want to touch base. I've got this real. Oh, I know about this. Now this isn't Michigan, but Gonzaga University out in Washington State. It's a Catholic university. Get this, they just banned a group from forming a chapter, a Knights of Columbus chapter, because the group, which is it's a Catholic organization, right. Knights of Columbus, because the group only admits Catholics.
We don't allow anybody to our fish fries, though. We welcome all to the fish fries.
Yeah. Where money will be made.
Okay, here we go. A little more education. This is the president of the Chicago Teachers Union. Teachers Union President Karen Lewis made an eyebrow-raising recommendation. This is a video you can see on I Am Muskegon. She said, these are tips, doling tips. These are tips from the union leader to the teachers. One of the suggestions, lie to parents. Quote, I used to love parent conferences because I would just lie to parents. I would say to their child, he's wonderful. And the parents would look at me like, are you talking about my kid? And the kid would sit like, when is she going to blow the whistle on me? Now I have a hostage, the kid. This is this woman was so proud of her strategy, I mean, folks, we live in an upside down world.
But you don't get shot either. When you tell them.
Well, the parents have a little bit in there. Who's to say? Hey, safe from sequester. We know that there's not enough money to do the things that really matter. Get this, over the weekend, the State Department allotted more than $700,000 for gardening to the U.S. ambassador's residence in Brussels, Belgium.
700,000.
Yeah.
Can't you get those tomato things that you hang upside down?
700,000 in Brussels. Here we got another one. $300,000 for workforce development in Serbia. The Serbs need our money. We don't. Hey, we are running to the end of the show here. Hey, I'll be at Carmen's Tuesday and Thursday this week. Another juvenile and jail transition center meeting. Of course, that horse is long out of the barn. Don't forget, the full audio is on IamMuskegon.com and video. Oscar videos us here. We're sitting here trying to look good here. All of my show prep, and I think it's a pretty good blob, is on.
You fixed your hair, didn't you?
I didn't know that.
And Tracy's here. Looks like he ate a cherry bomb this morning for breakfast. MuskegonPundit.com.
Buy a moose. Yeah.
And you don't get a moose here, although we do have a moose on the radio on another channel in this building. Hey, thanks again, Tracy, Oscar. Oscar, are we still on TV?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Oh, yeah, sure. Why not? Yeah. Every Monday night from 8 to 9:30.
The DVD player is working at this time. So.
Oh, good. Okay, it's a TV 38 and $3.97 on your Comcast. And next Sunday, Oscar and I will continue our quest for truth, justice, and the American way. And don't forget at noon, right after polka time, Renegade River Show, Mike Hewitt. Great show. Listen in. Have a great day, folks.